All right, guys, welcome back to our podcast, Map It Out. I'm Kota, and this is
Ryan
Williams, and this is episode 10. And what I wanted to discuss with Ryan today is about vision and how important it is to have a clear vision of what you're wanting to do business-wise, what you want your life. It's like mapping out your life before you build your business. But something I wanted to get his opinion on is that I have a business I'm growing right now, right? It's like a YouTube agency. But I feel like as an editor, like there's things that I miss about like other creative aspects of editing and things like that. Because I remember talking to you when I first started like my business. I was doing more like music video route, you know? And that's a very competitive, very tough avenue to go down because you're like, a lot of people don't have money, like things like that. Getting into like the bigger doors where like record labels can pay for that, and just this day and age, it's tough, but it's super creative, and I love it. So part of me is like I miss that when I'm super blessed to be in the position with my business where it's at, and I love it. But I do miss the other aspects of it. But I want to get your opinion when it comes to like how much do you focus on the business side of like what you're doing, like the money maker, and that's like what's building your thing of what you're doing. But it's like also like the passion projects behind like things you want to do.
Yeah. So I can only speak on it from my perspective and the way that I've done it, which may not be the right way. I just, went through a couple left and right turns and figured out where we are right now. But I went through a time where, like, when we first started our business or my business or any business, really, you're the operator in the company. Like, you're the one doing all the work. And it's really good and it's useful and it's necessary. But also, in order to scale, you have to bring people on, systematize the processes, train people up on the processes, and then you can scale the business through scaling and teaching and training and building the people. But once you do that, you get further and further away from being an operator in the company. And the way that when that happened in my company was the final part of that was Disney taking over as CEO. And I was left with like, well, shit, what, like, if you're the CEO now, like, what, what do I do? And I was still trying to be an operator because that's my default and that's what I was used to and good at. And when I would go and try to, do the things inside the company, like do the actual work inside the company, the systems that we have now are so much more evolved than I was used to when I was doing it. And I just ended up breaking shit. And everybody got mad at me, like, dude, stop doing this shit. You're just fucking it up, So I had to find something else to do for me. And that conversation with myself and with our staff and Disney and everything pretty much turned to, I need to do more I need to get back to the creative side because I was more on the operator side. But in your case, the creative side is still the operator side. I think you have to strike that balance of figuring out like, okay, you want to build a big company and you want to scale. That requires letting off the reins of a few things. But also, I do think it's important to hold on to a few of those things that you really enjoy, right? So some of those things that you do and only you do have to be things that exclusively move the company forward, like big picture vision, making the big decisions, planning things out, like high level strategy stuff. But also, if you really enjoy that, it might make sense to take on a project like every couple months and be like, hey, I'm gonna back off running the business for a little while. I'm gonna get into the business just to re-whet your appetite for that. And also, dude, things evolve so fast. Like if you do it every 3 months or 6 months, you'll probably learn a lot from that process too. And I know for me, one of the things that we're looking at doing is maybe taking one of our side brands and focusing on building that, because I do kind of miss having a brand. It was actually that conversation we had. I forget what episode it was, but I was talking about, what do I miss if I would rebuild what I built? And do I miss having a brand? And it's not that I miss it, but there's elements of that I notice aren't there. So I've been contemplating like going back and getting back into it, because I do miss that side of it. I do miss the creative process and just kind of like seeing a vision come to life and like reality, like building things from from your vision into a physical product, and then putting that out into the marketplace, and then getting feedback and recognition that people actually enjoy this thing that you brought into the world. But yeah, I don't know if we're going to do that. I don't know what the answer is yet on that, but I know that it's super common, and you have to, I mean, you have to evolve beyond that if you want to build a company, because otherwise you're just going to stay where you're at, which might be the right choice. You know what I mean? Scaling is not for everybody. Like, a lot of people have really great businesses and lives and have a lot of fun, very fulfilling, actually doing the work. But yeah, it's a balancing act, man, because you can't scale if you're the one doing the work.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing that. Like, I was listening to, Rob Dyrdek.
Oh yeah.
So he has a really cool podcast, Building with Rob, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. But he mentioned it in a really good way. He's a really creative guy.
Oh yeah.
Right. So he has all these different business ventures that he's going to, but now he has the Dyrdek machine. That's his company. But what his company does is build companies, because that's what he enjoys doing, is like just building brands and companies. It's not like, it could be super random areas, but to him, he was just like, when I was doing like the TV show stuff, I felt like I only could focus on the TV show stuff, but like I was wanting to do these other ventures with foods and restaurants and all that kind of stuff. But I felt like if I took my eye off of the filming stuff for MTV, like things were going to go away from me. But he was like, no, like that's why I built the Dyrdek machine, where it's like I can build as many companies as I want, and invest in other companies. So I was like, it was just cool from him being a super creative person and also like being Rob Dyrdek, very successful entrepreneur in business, all this kind of stuff. But it made me realize, like, I was like, okay, cool. You can focus on different things, different projects, different opportunities, and not just focus on that like one thing that like is good now, because I'm very, very happy to be in, like, creating content for people and teaching them how to, and the way they can speak on camera, like what's the best topics, like doing all that because I'm helping people, right? But like sometimes I get caught up, like I'm not helping myself, and like giving my time of like, when I do edit a video, I'm like, damn, this shit's so fun. Like, this shit's so badass. Like, I just miss really being creative. But I know it's very hard to scale when you have that one thing that you're good at.
Well, there might be a way to do both. So in your case, doing creative stuff, showcasing what you and your team can do is actually building the business, right? So you can hold on to a lot of that, that creative like juice and energy, just by making yourself the focus of it, right? Or maybe not yourself, but like this podcast, or like whatever you want to focus the lens on. If that has some kind of tie back to you and the company and gains you clients and business, then that's what you should be doing, because that's what your role is as moving the company forward. Sometimes the best thing you can do as the owner is just talk about your company and talk about, have conversations with the people about what their problems are and helping them solve their problems. That's all we do. We have conversations with a ton of people, and we help them solve problems and apply solutions. And sometimes what we've built is a great solution for them, and then we work together. Sometimes it's not, and we're happy to help and connect them with somebody else we know that might do whatever they need, whether it's website building or content creation or anything. But dude, Rob has a really cool system. So he spoke at a Arete Syndicate event a couple years ago, and I don't know if he's ever like spoke on stage before. I think that was the first time. And dude, he laid out it's really interesting how he has the system set up. So he's created this process and this system to where when he's got a very specific set of things that he's looking for in a company. Like, he wants to really enjoy the product and feel like it's making a difference. He wants to really get to know the founder and have a good relationship with them. And he wants to sell the company in, I might be screwing this part up, but roughly 2 to 3 years. And he wants to have a runway of 2 to 3 years with about $1 to $2 million invested. And he's looking for, I'm making this part up, like 4 to 10 by return, something like that. But that's his system. But what he's done is he has the infrastructure to build that. So he goes in and he only works on the parts of the business that he loves. So he loves the creative process, sitting down with the founder, doing all like setting the big vision and making the big plans and doing all the shit. But then once that's done, he's out and his infrastructure takes over. So his people who who are able to execute and do the work on all these big pieces that he's moving around the board. They do the work and they go with the founder and they help execute and build all these things that they come up with together. And then Rob's out onto the next project. So he's able to build this machine that he only has to do what he really loves. And I think that's a really cool way to set things up.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I'm like, listening to that podcast and just the way he talks, I'm like, shit, dude, like there's no end to anything. Like, dude, that's how I feel. And going back to you, you had Demon Bells, right? You were working on industry. You were thinking there's another thing that you were doing too.
Yeah, Disciples of Iron and Forged was the first one.
See, so you were balancing those things on your plate. Was it like, did you, like when someone thinks of like starting a company, what do they think? $1 million company. They think think huge, right?
Make $1 million tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, but do they get to a point where you're starting that business where it's okay if that company generates $500,000 and you find someone that runs that company, like whatever, like if that's something that's on the side, doesn't mean you have to like just stick to that thing and make it a $10 million company to go into that next thing you want to go do.
Yeah, not everything has to be a passion project. I mean, if you have like your main thing, I do feel should be tied into what you're passionate about. But also you can have a ton of side projects that just like, as long as they're profitable and like minimal investment of your time and a reasonable investment of your capital, and it's getting a good return, that's awesome. That's like just money flowing in. And as long as it doesn't take up, too much of your bandwidth, mental bandwidth or time bandwidth or capital bandwidth, you can build and scale a bunch of that stuff. It's just that usually things like side projects don't usually grow at the rate of your primary project.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on like why you're doing it. Like we have another brand, Strength Alliance, that I've had. It's been dormant for like literally years, and it's cool and I love it. But at the same time, it's like, dude, do I really have the bandwidth to push it? And do I want to? And do I want to get back into building a brand? Because I know what that takes. And dude, it's just constant like pushing a rock uphill. And so I have to commit to like 2 to 3 years of building that until it becomes something that's, exitable. And that's why I've been hesitant to do it. Because like, dude, I really enjoy industry. I really enjoy working with other brand owners and like helping them build their visions and their dreams. And I get to work in the creative aspect of that with our clients. And I really enjoy that part of it. So yeah, I haven't pulled the trigger on doing my own brand again because I'm kind of scratching that itch with helping the other clients, but it's also, there's something missing where it's not like, I'm not building my own thing, even though industry is mine. It's different than like a front facing brand. We're building infrastructure here is really what we're doing. The vision is a key thing, dude. Like, and it changes too. Like my vision for this company, for industry, when we first started was completely different.
That's what it was.
Yeah, I had a completely different idea of what I wanted in my head. Year 1 versus now, like going on year 7.
Did you always want, like, when you start a brand or a company, do you always have, like, you want an exit out of it? Everything that you start? Is that very important?
I think there's a great book called Built to Sell. And I forget who the author is, but it's a fantastic book. Even if you don't plan on selling, just the systems, if you build a company to sell, that means that inherently you have to systematize all the processes, and it makes it very regimented so that it just runs better, So you're going to enjoy it more. You're going to make more money, be more efficient, more profitable. When you put energy into the company, you'll get more back out of it. So I think it's always good to build a company as if you're going to sell it, even if you don't intend to. Like I don't think I'll ever sell industry, but I built a lot of other companies that my intent was from the ground up, like I want to sell this in 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 years, whatever it is. And I think it's important also to kind of map out that runway. I'm like, okay, I got 7 years to build this other thing. And I know who I want to sell it to. I know how much I want to sell it for. What do I need to build in the company to create that value where somebody's going to come in and buy it for this amount at this time, right? And so even just having an awareness of that helps you make decisions along the road. Like, do I want to go left or I want to do right? Well, if I go right, that's more in line with these huge goals that I set for myself. So I'm going to go right. And it's just like a guiding principle, or it helps you make these kind of decisions where they might be 50-50, but once you have that, like, oh, I want to exit, or even if you don't want to, but you build it like you're going to exit, it makes it a lot easier to make those kind of 50-50 decisions, more like 60-40 or 70-30.
Is there a website where you sell your business? I'm like, because how's that work to sell a business? You get to the exit strategy. You're like, I'm out. I'm like, I want to make profit off this now. What do you do?
Yeah, so there's different stuff. I've sold most of my businesses just to like people that I already knew, and they were a great fit for it, and people in my network. But most of the stuff that I sold was not anything like super high dollar. So normally, a lot of the smaller stuff was just, we had like a really basic contract and signed over the assets. So they didn't actually buy the company. Like, you don't buy the LLC. They buy the assets of the company, which might be like inventory. We should actually do a podcast on like how you sell a company, because there is a lot that goes into it that most people don't realize. I'm trying to think how to simplify it, but there's just so much that goes into it. But yeah, you can find them as easy on, like, you can go on Craigslist and businesses. There's people selling businesses on Craigslist. There's also business brokers, but there's typically, because a business broker will only handle businesses at a certain size because they have to have a big enough commission to make it worth their while. So unless, I mean, you probably won't find a business under $500,000 by going through a broker. But you might find some really great businesses for like $500,000 to $5 million to $10 million. Usually these brokers have like a bandwidth of like the types of businesses that they focus on, because their clients are very different too. The type of person who buys a $50,000 business, very different type of person or entity than a person who buys a $50 million business or a $500 million business. Like, there's different levels of things, and people operate at completely different levels and different expectations. Like, what does escrow look like? Like, how do you transfer the money? Like, what kind of assets do you actually need to deliver for it? Yeah, we should probably do a podcast about that. But ultimately, it's always good to build it like you're going to sell it, because then if you don't, now you're an actual like company owner, and you have the freedom to step away sometimes, and you have the freedom to take a vacation. You have the freedom to be like, look, dude, I'm fucking maxed out. I want to lay in fucking bed all day and not answering the phone. And if you're the business and if you haven't systematized that, you fucking can't, you know?
See, and this is a great thing that we kind of talked about the last podcast, but the comfortability aspect, right? Where, dude, I've been busting my ass for like the last 2 years, like I'm like a little bitch complaining, but I have been like, it's hard work. But I get to that point where now I have people working with me and helping, and we're all together like building, you know? So it's great. And it gives me more time throughout the day to focus on like what I'm trying to focus on. But sometimes I'm like, what the fuck do I want to focus on? You know, and like, do I want to go? It's like, this is where I get so torn. Invest more time into that business I have now, or like let that keep going, let it organically grow, all that kind of stuff, and focus on like a passion project I really love. Or it's like, nah, man, like I love this business I have right now with all the clients I work with and the team that I have. I love it. I really do. But I get nervous where it's just like, the burnout of that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, dude. Now I'm like, dude, I don't even want to be a part of it. You know, that's like the thing. And that's just the creative side of me. That's like the entrepreneur side. That's just like something that's like, I overthink a lot of shit.
That's a human side, dude. That's what it is. Like we talk about in the Lamborghini podcast, like people just get used to shit. And no matter how good or bad it is, people just get used to it for good or better or worse. But I also think that the answer to that, from my opinion, depends on your goals, right? So if your goal is to just be like fulfilled and happy and have a great life, it's probably just chase the passion. You know what I mean? Like, you won't have as big a company, and it might be a little bit tighter with money, but you're going to be truly chasing your passion. The other way to do it is scale the business, put the passion on the back burner for a little while. Well, that type of like individual passion, and focus on the group passion for the bigger project, and then scale it and build it. And then you build it to a point where now it's self-sustaining, and you can actually pull as much time as you want out to focus on your personal passion project, because you've already spent 3 to 5 years building the business up to the point where like it's still maintaining and even growing when you're not there. And then you're freed up to do whatever you want. So I personally like that approach.
Because I think that's a smart way to go about it. I feel like that's just something that I've been like really trying to figure out.
Well, the great thing is, dude, you got plenty of time, man.
I don't feel like I do though. To me, like that's something that's me. Like I hang out with people that are like older than me, and I feel like that's my age. And then I'm like, oh, I turn 27 next month, and I'm like, like something it just doesn't add up. It's just like I need it done now. Like, you know, enjoy the journey, but mine's like I just enjoy working, and I want. It's also like like being like a fear of failing. You know,
dude, I'm super impatient with all my shit. Yeah, I totally get it. And on one hand, I'm like kind of proud of us and our team and myself. Like, Austin will probably do, you know, around $10 million this year, top line. But also, I'm like, fuck, man, we could do so much better. Like, we have really low profit margin. Like, I could increase our profit margin a lot more. I could take care of our team better. I give everybody raises. Like, there's so many things I could do. I could be doing better, and I should be doing better. But it's so easy, like, to focus on that stuff and be like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. I think it's just part of the game, dude. Like, you just got to realize that you just do the best you can at all times, and give yourself some grace and some space to fuck up. And just know that you're a searcher, you're a learner, and you're going to get better.
Yeah.
And over time, like, it takes time to build big shit. Like, it really does. And there's no way around that. But if you can have a good time and take care of people and establish and maintain like really good relationships and friendships on your journey, dude, where you're going to be in, you know, 5 to 10 years is huge. How do you know when you're following your passion and neglecting growing something bigger? And how do you know when you're growing something bigger and neglecting your passion? Like, I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is to that. I know for me, it's been kind of a push and pull through that journey. And sometimes I'll, you know, cut out early from here and go home and just have a drink and a smoke by the fire pit and just literally think about shit. And what I think about is what I want to do next. Like, what I want my life to look like. Not so much like, how can I push the brand forward or the business forward, but like, how can I live a better life that I'm like most happy with, you know?
Yeah. So, and that just triggered it for me. Being comfortable. Are you comfortable?
Probably too comfortable.
Cool.
Yeah.
That makes me feel better, because it's like, how do you get uncomfortable again? Do you think being comfortable now like is a dangerous thing?
I think you have to be hungry, which means you have to set bigger goals. But I'm hesitant. So we have some pretty significant goals that we're setting, but also because we ran into that huge problem about like a year and a half ago and almost sank the whole fucking company, I'm super hesitant about setting monster goals, because that's what got us in the problem. Is like, I was thinking grow at all costs. And I was like, wait a second, what's that cost? Oh, I should have been paying attention to it.
Fuck.
Like, fuck, man. Dang. So I'm hesitant now to grow at all costs. Now our motto is like grow responsibly. And I feel like that's not as sexy or cool, but man, it's way fucking safer. So we still set big goals, but at the same time, man, like it's gotta be something that is sustainable. You know, you can't build a skyscraper on a fucking foundation of sand, you know?
Being comfortable. Because you always hear it, being comfortable kills. Like, that's why I always say it. I'm like, because I feel like it's true. Like, I've been around a lot of people in my life where I see comfortability and where it takes them. And that's the fear of mine. And sometimes when I do get comfortable, I think of it, is it more being proud of where I've come from and like what I'm doing? And then, or is it like, nah, like now you can sit back and chill and kind of relax for a second and then go back at it. It's like, do I deserve a break?
Is it a fear of comfort or is it a fear of mediocrity?
Both, I guess.
Because comfort does lead to mediocrity.
Which I'm never going to be. You know, like that's just something
I don't think you are either.
Scares me.
You have to be super honest with yourself. Like, am I chasing this? Am I chasing comfort, or do I really need a rest so that I can go forward? Because you can't operate at high velocity and high intensity without rest periods. You just can't. It's like somebody telling you, like, you know, you can sprint 50 yards, but you can't sprint 5 miles. You know what I mean? Like, you can run 5 miles, we can't sprint 5 miles. There's a difference. So in order to But if you want to go 5 miles, you have to find a pace that you can maintain. You can't sprint for 50 yards and then fucking die, or walk the rest of the way. Like, you have to find a pace that fits. And with that, that requires rest. It requires self-awareness. It requires knowing when you legitimately need to rest and when you're kind of being a bitch and you need to get yourself out of it. And that's a fine line to walk. But also, I think it comes down to like, I have an easier time of that now because I've built up my identity and that my trust in myself to where I know I'm not the type of person that is going to like not work out for a week unless I can help it. But even I'll do like a workout in the hotel room or something like that. But I know that about myself because I've had 44 fucking years of trust and faith in myself because I show up and I do this all the time. So now when I'm faced with that situation, like, oh, what if I do this or that, or maybe I should do this? Like, no. I am not the type of person that does that. I'm the type of person that does this. I'm the type of person that does the fucking work, that puts in the time, that puts in the effort. So it makes it easier for me to do that because I've built it over time into a sense of my own identity. And then once it's embedded and baked into your identity, it's so much stronger because it's almost impossible to break because it's inseparable from you. So if I were to like not work out for a week, dude, I would, regardless of the fitness stuff, like I wouldn't feel like myself. And if I don't feel like myself, I know I can't perform well and lead the team. I know I can't perform well and do the things that I need to do in my job, in my life, and show up for my wife and show up for our team and everything. So I think it all comes down to you have to do hard things. You have to figure things out. You have to build trust in yourself. And once you have enough of that, it makes it a lot easier to be like, you know what? I am okay. I am taking legitimate rest because I know I'm going to go fucking hard tomorrow. But I think the fact that you're even asking yourself that tells you all you need to know. Because most people don't ask themselves that.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, I feel this way. I feel like I need to take a rest. Whereas you're like, well, shit, I feel like this, but do I? Mm-hmm. Do I really need to rest?
Yeah. And
just the fact that you're asking means that you're already like steps above anybody else. Because most people don't even, most people just giving themselves an excuse for doing anything. Like, oh, I'm eating donuts today. Cheat day is yesterday, but today's really close to yesterday. So I'm going to eat donuts today too.
I didn't go to bed last night.
Yeah.
So it's still yesterday.
Yeah,
still
totally.
One day.
You're like, well, I already had donuts today, so I might as well have pizza tonight. I'll start tomorrow. Like,
that's a huge, dude, I still catch myself doing shit like that. But I think the habit is better, or bad habit, but catching myself earlier and be like, no, bitch, you don't do that.
Yeah. I know as far as nutrition, for me anyway, the way I handle that, I have a dedicated cheat day. So like every Sunday, like Disney and I, we'll get a pizza each and a whole big thing of Dr. Pepper. And we sit down, we watch a movie, and that's our fucking, usually leg day in the morning. So I feel like I've earned it. I need it, Yeah. I need the carbs. But because I give myself that, it allows me to go hard and throughout the week and be like, no, I'm not going to have the donuts. I'm not going to have the bagel. I'm not going to have that stuff because I know I'm rewarding myself on Sunday. And I know that if I give myself that donut on Wednesday or that fucking whatever thing I'm not supposed to eat on Thursday, I won't fucking enjoy that Sunday night with my wife because I won't feel like I've earned it. So I almost have to, it makes it easier to say no to those things because I know I'm saying yes to another thing.
Yeah. It's kind of like you're quitting on yourself in a way.
Mm-hmm. But also you have to give yourself that. Like you can't like live on 75 hard the rest of your life. Like it's not meant to be like that. Like you have to have some kind of a give and take and a sustainable pace for the rest of your life. 75, it's not designed to do, 75 years. Right? I
could not imagine.
Yeah.
A lot of water.
Yeah. So at a certain point, it's inherent that you have to take a break. You have to give yourself, some kind of respite. But also it's very important that you don't give yourself too much and turn to a slob or back off your goals.
Because I think that's a big one thing, like you keep saying, is pace.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really good at that right now. And that's why it's something I would like to do, but I get scared of like trying something different, like catch a good pace, right? Like get to that pace, like either sprint 5 miles, that whole thing. Like I want to catch a good pace. And if I do that, is that going to make me slow down on myself and be like, oh, you're going to get there, bud, eventually?
It takes time and experience.
Yeah.
Like I'll equate it to running. Like we had a 4-mile time to run in Buds. And I was usually a pretty good runner. I was like 185 pounds at the time. I'm like 230 now. So it's like 50 pounds lighter. So I could run pretty well. So I was usually one of the top, like maybe 5 to 8 guys out of a 50 to 80 man class. But when we first started off, that initial like quarter mile, a half mile, I was in the back of the pack because I had ran a lot previously to that, especially on a treadmill. So I knew my pace. I knew, okay, if we have a 28-minute 4 mile, I know that I need to do 7 minutes. So my body knew what a 7-minute pace felt like. So I started a 7-minute pace right out of the gate. So, but everybody else didn't have the running experience to pace themselves. So what they did, they just sprinted as fast as they could and then went into oxygen debt and then backed off. And the rest of their run after the first 50 yards was miserable because they're sucking air because they didn't know their pace. Whereas because I had the experience to do that, it made it a lot easier. And I was able to hold a 7-minute pace, like, at the time pretty easily. And that never goes like, I can still run like a 6:30 mile, even at like 2:30.
Damn.
It's because my body knows that pace, right? And I think you have to.
But it's experience.
You have to learn that. And I've had to learn that pace of entrepreneurship too. It's like, you can't fucking go hard for 15 years forever and never take a day off and never give yourself any, like, you can't live like that. It's not a reasonable expectation. So you have to find what that cycle is of pace for yourself. I know for nutrition, it's giving myself a cheat day or cheat meal every Sunday. That's my thing. And that allows me to stay on pace for, probably ever.
All right, man. You have anything else?
No, dude, I think it's good. I think if you guys are digging this, please like, subscribe, share your friends. All right, man.
Shake and bake.